G'day, I'm Dave. Hope you are all well. So continuing on talking about owning the conversation, and my thesis that owning the conversation and being active and using AI technology as intelligence is really going to become commonplace. Now, there is a big gap between people who want to uptake AI and what I've discovered in lots and lots of people that I've spoken to, both business people and the man on the street, as they say. There's a bit of pushback with AI, which I've discussed before. Now, a year ago when I started talking about this stuff and showing the latest, the fact you could clone yourself and all this sort of, these party tricks, I guess, it's now coming to an absolute reality. And what I want to talk about today is, because I'm involved in this stuff, obviously you're at the forefront and you get to see the ideas, but I'm looking at it through the vision, through the eyes of someone who has been fortunate enough to be at the cutting edge of technology doing different things, but not with a corporate. Like I've never worked for a big corporation. So the way I see things are more grounded at the small to medium sized business, the entrepreneurs. Now the time is so exciting because it's like all the cards have been chucked up in the air and possibilities just abound. It's incredible. So I just want to back up my argument a little bit. I've had a couple of people say, it's all right for you, Dave, to sit there and talk about it. So I just want to paint some sort of picture as to why I designed the Own the Conversation concept, why I spent so long building the actual system, because I can see from all the information that's available, up to the date information, and even what was happening slightly before, the direction in which it's moving. So, for example, if we take Meta, Mark Zuckerberg, huge company, obviously Facebook is massive, or Meta is massive. 9 months ago, he basically came out with an explanation of where he sees things going. So, because we're talking about the major players, right? When you talk to people about what is effective and what's not effective, where things are heading, sometimes they might go, it's a bit science fiction-y. Oh, no, not today. It might happen in my lifetime or whatever. So, as they say in the movies, follow the money. Where is the money going, right? So, my next couple of talks are going to be basically just backing up my argument with what's happening in the real world, right? What's happening now with the investment, with the money, and what people are actually doing and where they're up to. Yeah, so as part of me constructing my argument, I guess, or just presenting what's actually going on in the world, here's a quick clip from Mark Zuckerberg, which is nine months ago or something like 10 months ago. And this basically, these guys, the decisions that they make, their corporate decisions, impact every single person. So let's say, for example, tomorrow, all the banks just decided they weren't going to lend on housing anymore because for whatever reason. That would just disrupt and change the entire way that society operates. But the banks made the decision. So you're the person on the ground that wants to buy a house. The banks change the decision. You've got no other way around it. You have to work around whatever the new construct is that the banks have decided that people will acquire property. Imagine that's the same with what we use the technology for every day. There is a massive, massive shift because AI has just totally, in this age of ever-increasing intelligence and the cost of intelligence and productivity coming down so fast, it opens up so many opportunities. So let's have a quick look at this clip and see what Mr. Zuckerberg's got to say.
There are hundreds of millions of small businesses in the world, and one of the things I think is really important is basically making it so with a relatively small amount of work, a business can basically, a few taps, stand up an AI agent for themselves that can do customer support, sales, communicate with all their people, all their customers. I think that every business in the future, just like they have an email address and a website and a social media presence today, I think every business is going to have an AI agent that their customers can talk to in the future.
Yeah, that's exactly right. So that's what I've been saying. So the starting point is we've gone from the simple chatbot, and people are used to the concept of having something you can chat, normally manned by a person or set answers, Q&As. Now, this will just be the way that we interact with machines. Now, that was 9 months ago, and that was Meta, okay? So all of this chatter has been around what's going on, but when it comes to the fore and it becomes in development and production stage, that's when it becomes really interesting. So this week, Google at the Google I/O released some mind-blowing stuff. The reason I say it's mind-blowing is because obviously the technology is advanced and advancing, but you've got the large companies like Microsoft, OpenAI, Google, Apple. They are all creating this benchmark of what you, the consumer, will get. So it's not just Dave's idea that, you know, you're going to be talking to your own personal AI assistant, and the AI assistant on the agentic web will go and gather the information, right? That is a logical outcome of what's going to happen. But in isolation, if I just sit here and talk about it, it's just my idea. So by backing my argument up, you can see that, and hopefully I can give you an insight so you can actually get the front running in this new world that we're heading into. So the next clip I'll look at is basically a clip from Google I/O, which happened 2 days ago. And what the good thing that's happened about Google is Google's very mainstream like Microsoft, right? So when all these CEOs are talking about implementing these products, now they've got the products, right? So now people will be forced to start using them. Like the example I gave about if all of a sudden the banks stop lending on houses and homes, how are you going to do it? You have to reinvent and go with whatever the major companies have decided the way that you shall go. So that is the first indicator of the way that things are doing, when the products are actually implemented. So we're talking about an agentic web. This is very simple. So the starting point of all businesses is you need to be involved in the conversation about what's going on with your business, right? Now, we're not a multinational company. There's only very few of those. But what we are is we're businesses, we like our business, we want to promote our business, and we want to interact with AI, and we want to start using AI. Now, what I say when I talk to people and they go, oh, I'm really busy, Dave, I haven't got time to give you the information or whatever. 20 years ago when I was, or 25 years ago when I was web designing, I would have to physically say to people and hassle them, can you please send me some PDF documents that I would scan and retype and whatever. The information flow for the owner of the business to construct a creative piece about their business was a lot of hard work. Fast forward to today, nearly all companies have some digital output, whether it's a web page or whether it's a Facebook page or whatever. Everyone has really some digital information out there. But where the real information that's very hard to transfer to a web page or any other format has been in the past is what's in the mind, what is going on with the owner of the business, the way they like to run the business, their ideas of running, how they present themselves, what their concepts are. They're passionate about their business. Now, you can't be everywhere at once. I'm not suggesting everyone just clones themselves and passes, you off as being someone who you're not. But what you can do is you can take that information, like say pricing and things like that, and you can put it into your AI assistant. So you've got this agent basically working for you on your behalf. And this is where we need to start thinking that way. It's not about replacing the humans. It's about using the tools, right? So if we look at the Google, I'll just do a quick snapshot. That's what I had to say here. On the agentic web, I think it's very important that we understand that when the big companies start to, let me just click on this button here.
Released it as an early research prototype in December, and we've made a lot of progress since. And we are starting to bring agentic capabilities to Chrome, Search, and the Gemini app. Let me show you what we are excited about. We call it Agent Mode. Say you want to find an apartment for you and 2 roommates in Austin. You've each got a budget of $1,200 a month. You want a washer dryer or at least a laundromat nearby. Using Agent Mode, the Gemini app goes to work behind the scenes. You might be familiar with our AI-powered smart reply features. Now imagine if those responses could sound like you. That's the idea behind personalized smart replies. With your permission, Gemini models can use relevant context across your Google apps in a way that is private, transparent, and fully under your control. Let's say my friend wrote to me looking for advice. He's taking a road trip to Utah, and he remembers I did this trip before. Gemini can do almost all the work for me, looking up my notes in Drive, scanning past emails for reservations. Gemini matches my typical greetings from past emails, captures my tone, style, and favorite word choices, and then it automatically generates a reply.
Okay, so that is crucial, right? It's not about cloning yourself. You've got a personality. You've got a way you answer emails. You've got your thoughts, your ideas, your thought processes. Now the AI can take that in your AI assistant or your agent and use that to assist your business, right? It's not about trying to not interact with clients. Obviously, that is very important. I mean, I know personally, talking to the person, the business owner, is more important than some AI assistant. But at the same token, you can replace a lot of what you would do by using the information that you have in your head. Now, perfect example, mainstream company like Google. You want to start answering emails, you want to answer business replies, you want to get involved in the conversation, right? You can use the technology now to make life simple and increase your productivity, right? If you don't do it, your competition will be. And this is the other thing. Without trying to strike fear into people, this is moving so rapidly, right? The people that uptake and understand AI, right? It's not about becoming an AI expert or a rocket scientist or anything along those lines. If you've got a good understanding of AI and a good understanding of your business that you love, you want to try and improve that business, improve your bottom line by using the technology. Don't be scared of the technology, okay? Now, that's the second major player we're talking about that has basically said we're heading to an agentic web, right? Yeah, so when the major corporations start making moves, that's when it affects all of us. So in my trifecta of major corporations deciding the future for us, here's an interview with Satya Nadella by Matthew Berman, who's a very, very good broadcaster, actually. Very well known on YouTube. He's been around for a long time. He's starting to really influence and get some good interviews. So yeah, here's just a brief one that he did with Satya Nadella from Microsoft.
The way I think about it is, first you have to embrace what's new, right? And that's where I think even, now that we're even 2 to 3 years in, depending on how you count, into this, AI era and this agentic web era, the patterns of what it means to build agents, build apps is becoming clearer, right? So you have to really go look at this tech stack that you have, that you built maybe for a previous workload. Now needs to be really thought of from first principles for the new workload, right? So take even the infrastructure layer, right? Obviously, we are very, very proud of the fact that we have 70 regions of Azure all around the world. And then you say, wow, we now need to retrofit them or fit them to become AI factories, right? That's kind of what you need to do. It turns out that if you take even an app like ChatGPT or Copilot, it definitely needs a lot of GPUs or AI accelerators, but it also needs everything else. It needs, in fact, tons of storage, both during training and inference. It needs a ton of compute, regular compute, not AI accelerated compute, in order to be able to, for example, have the environments for agents. So interestingly enough, it turns out what we built over the last 15 years may be more relevant now because agents need more of it than any workload previously. But it's at a different unit of scale. So that's kind of what we have to do at the infra layer. Same thing with data, right? Take data and you say, well, data has been always about, take a database. You said that's where you schematize people, places, things. But now you can bring the intelligence layer to the data, right? A reasoning engine straight in. Like one of the coolest demos we showed was this Postgres, which so modular that you can now mix and match in your SQL query an LLM response, right? I mean, think about the query plan you can generate. So I feel that every layer of the tech stack has to be reimagined, but it also means we can take some of the best work we've done over the last 15 years and have it compound for our developers so that they can get the benefits of it. So that's how we are thinking about it, right? Which is how do we make sure we think about every layer of the tech stack from a first principles perspective for the new AI workloads that are being built, and then really stitch it together so that it meets the real world needs of customers. And so
Okay, so we can see what he's talking about there. It sounds all very confusing, but basically what they're saying is the whole way now we process data, the whole way we process information has changed radically. So let's just, if you use my system as an example, right? What you're doing is you're using the intelligence at different levels to interpret the data and give a conversational answer. In other words, you're talking to your spreadsheet, you're talking to your customer data. This is the way it will be, right? It's all about conversation. What he basically said is, we've built some infrastructure over the years. They have a huge Azure network. The cloud network is huge. They're not saying throw the baby out with the bathwater, that's been a waste of time. What they're saying is that was critical as part of the journey of where we get to now. But the big thing is the major change that people will discover, because it's driven by these major companies, it's happening whether we like it or not, is the way we interact with machines will be through conversation. What he has basically said is, you've already got information and knowledge in your business. You can use it smarter. It's an agentic web. It won't be just the humans doing all the work. That's why these things need to be designed for the agentic future. That's why seeding the conversation about your business, and I go back to the example of the Google model that they've, by their own admission, have basically just said is not going to be the way we do it anymore, right? We are going to give you truth in information. We are going to use your agent that's based on your knowledge, knowing what you know, to go and find information for you. When it gets to the place it needs to find the information, if that place is set up like with an AI assistant, an AI assistant based website with conversation and lots of examples, you are more likely to get put into the answer for the end user. So I'll leave it there for now, but the whole point of me talking about this today is basically just to say, hey, the large companies that we use their tools every day have already made their mind up, and this is the way it's heading. The difference between now and 25 years ago when I did the internet was from 1995 to say 2005, where it went from zero to really started to peak. 10 years, it's 10 months now. It's not 10 years, okay? So you need to think seriously about not being scared of AI. It's only intelligence. The large players are using it and implementing it, which means we will be using it and implementing it. So get ahead of the curve, get ahead of the game, take baby steps if you have to, but you will have no choice. You will have to understand AI. The more you understand it, the more productive your business will be. Don't let your competition get there first, right? You need to have an understanding of it. The world will change radically. Anyway, I'm Dave. Thanks for listening to me, and I shall catch you in the next one.